Okay, so you know those kid toy unboxers you see all over YouTube? I have to admit I kind of get sucked into watching them sometimes. But you've sent us some research that really digs deep into this whole child influencer world.
Yeah, it's definitely more than just kids having fun with toys. This research paper we're looking at, Unboxing the Child Influencer Paradoxes, was from the Journal of Marketing Management. And it really gets into some thought-provoking stuff.
So these kids are having fun, right? But they're also promoting products and sometimes making a ton of money. So is it play or is it work or is it both somehow?
It's a great question. It's kind of the heart of the issue, and the researchers use this term playbur to try to describe it.
And
yeah, so like imagine you have this 6-year-old who's just not feeling it. You know, they don't want to film another unboxing video. But the parent's saying, no, we promised the brand we'd have a video up by Friday. So it gets really tricky to tell where the fun ends and the work begins.
playbur. It's kind of a disturbing term when you really think about it. It makes you think about the pressure these kids must feel. I mean, we're talking about commercializing childhood, right?
Right. And the research digs into both the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are definitely valid concerns about the downsides. Things like pressure and the emotional toll of constantly performing for a camera, you know, being on. But there are other people who argue that these kids are actually learning valuable skills for the future, things they'll need in this digital world we live in.
Like what kinds of skills?
Well, some people would say things like public speaking, marketing, even video editing. And if their earnings are being managed properly, there's an argument to be made for financial literacy, learning those skills early on. It's not a simple issue, which is part of what makes this research so interesting.
So it's not as simple as just saying it's right or wrong.
Exactly. There are a lot of angles.
This is already making me think about this whole child influencer thing in a totally different way. But it also makes you wonder, how much of a choice do these kids really have in all of this? You mentioned parents pushing their kids to film. That power dynamic just feels off.
It is. And that's a big part of what the researchers are trying to understand. They use the term conditional autonomy to talk about the fact that these kids actually have very limited control over their own lives.
Conditional autonomy.
Think about it. Being a kid comes with rules, sure. But imagine being told that you have to act happy for the camera even when you're not. And the reason is because there's a brand deal on the line. And the researchers found that this kind of thing happens all the time. Like there's one example in the study where a mother admitted to giving her kids lollipops as a reward for performing well on camera.
Wow, so it's like bribing kids with candy to make sure the sponsored content gets filmed. That's when it really hits home how much is riding on these videos for some families. Like, it's not just about having fun and playing anymore. It's their livelihood, their image, their whole online persona.
And when parents step into that role of manager, making decisions about their kids' potential earnings, online presence, even their future career based on internet fame, that's when it gets complicated.
Yeah. That's a lot of pressure for everyone involved. The parents, the kids, even the people watching who might not realize what's going on behind the scenes. It makes you wonder, where do we go from here? Is there even a solution?
That's the million-dollar question, and unfortunately, there's no easy answer. But as we explore this research further, we can start to uncover some potential paths forward, because it's not just about whether kids should be allowed to be influencers. It's about looking at the systems, the lack of regulations, and the ethical stuff that seems to be missing from the conversation. And, you know, one of the biggest things nobody's really talking about is what happens to these kids when they grow up. I mean, their whole childhoods, even those awkward phases we all go through, it's all going to be online for everyone to see. And a lot of times, people are making money off of it.
It's true. We don't think about that very often, do we? We're worried about the pressure kids are feeling now, the possibility of them being exploited. But yeah, the long-term effects on how they see themselves, the relationship with work, with fame even. We should really do a whole other deep dive just on that.
Oh, absolutely. And this research really emphasizes that this is something we need to look into more. Because right now, it's like we're all part of this big social experiment, but there's no control group.
Right.
We don't actually know how this level of exposure is going to affect a child in the long run. This mixing of their public and private lives.
And it's not just about how they grow up as people either, right? It makes you think about how we see childhood as a society. Are we okay with the idea of kids missing out on all those typical childhood experiences because they're busy building a brand? Makes you wonder about our priorities.
It really does. And that idea of conditional autonomy we talked about, it comes into play here too. If a kid learns from a young age that their worth depends on how well they perform online, how much they please their parents, their followers, brands even, How does that affect their decisions when they get older? Are they going to know how to set boundaries, or are they going to just keep looking for validation from outside sources?
It's almost like setting these kids up for a lifetime of chasing likes and views, isn't it? Which brings us to another big issue the research talks about: privacy. We all know how hard it is to get something off the internet once it's out there. Just imagine if your most embarrassing childhood moments were just a Google search away.
And that's what I'm not sure parents realize. When they're posting that cute video of their kid online, they're not just sharing it with friends and family anymore. It's out there for the whole world to see, and maybe even use in ways they wouldn't want. The research calls it sharenting, and it's become a real ethical mess, especially when you throw child influencers into the mix. How do you decide what's just a proud parent moment and what's going too far? Especially when those likes and views could mean money.
It's tough because you have parents who just want to show off their kids, sharing stuff they see as harmless, right? But then there's this whole other side, this whole industry that's grown up around using those cute kids and catchy jingles to make money. Are there any laws to protect these kids?
That's part of what makes this so tricky. The laws we have now were written for a different time. They're meant for things like child actors or models. They don't really apply to the world of making content online. This paper doesn't have all the answers, but it makes one thing very clear. If we want to protect these kids, we have to start thinking differently about how we regulate this whole online space.
It's like the Wild West out there. Everyone's just making up the rules as they go along. And in the middle of it all are real kids, so where do we go from here? What's the answer?
The research really stresses that we need to be talking about this more, doing more research, and honestly, just making more people aware of what's going on. Parents need to understand what it might mean for their kids in the long term to put them online like this. And the people making the laws need to catch up with the digital world and actually create laws that protect these kids. And as for the rest of us, we need to start thinking about the stuff we watch and the systems we're supporting with our clicks, our likes, even our money.
We have to take responsibility too, don't we? We're not just watching from the sidelines, we're part of this whole system. What can we even do, though? It feels like such a huge problem.
You're right. It's not like there's one easy answer that's going to fix everything.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we should just give up. Even small changes can make a difference.
So where do we even start with those small changes? It's easy to feel overwhelmed by all of this, like it's just too big to fix.
Oh, for sure. It's not about getting rid of the whole child influencer thing overnight. It's more about taking those first steps to make people more aware. For parents, it could be as simple as actually talking to their kids about what they're doing online, setting some boundaries, making sure their kids' well-being comes before any money they might be making.
Like you were saying, changing our priorities. Instead of asking how many views did you get, maybe it's, did you have fun making that video?
Exactly. And for the people writing the laws, they need to realize that this is basically a new form of child labor. It's just happening in the digital world. They need to create laws that actually protect these kids. What if we had rules about how long kids could spend filming or how to manage the money they make, just like they do for child actors?
That seems pretty reasonable. I mean, we're just talking about applying the same child labor laws to this new online world, right?
And it does seem obvious, doesn't it? But it's not just up to parents and lawmakers, is it? We're all part of this as consumers.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Every time we click on one of those cute kid videos, every time we buy something because a 6-year-old sang a catchy jingle, it makes you wonder, are we part of the problem?
It's definitely something to think about. Are we okay with the fact that our entertainment might be coming at a cost? Maybe we can start by being more aware of who we're supporting with our views and our money. Choosing to watch creators who we can tell care about the kids, or even just talking about this stuff with our friends and family, getting people thinking about it.
Just shining a light on the problem can make a difference. That's what they say, right? Sunlight is the best disinfectant. This research has definitely shown me some things I didn't really want to see about the internet.
Well, that's what good research should do, right? Make us question things, think critically, hopefully make the world a little bit better in the process.
It's definitely done that for me today. It's easy to think of child influencers as just another fad, another thing that'll go away eventually. But when you really dig into it, the ethical stuff, the long-term effects it could have on these kids, it makes you realize how important this really is.
You said it. It's about seeing these kids as kids first. Not as many celebrities or ways for other people to make money. They deserve to be protected, to be treated with respect, And we really need to be thinking about their best interests.
So to everyone listening, next time you're scrolling online and you see a video of a cute kid, take a second and think about what we talked about today. Think about the play bird, the power dynamics, everything that might be going on behind the scenes. And ask yourself, what kind of online world do we want for these kids? For all kids. The future of childhood might depend on it.